Massive stones were positioned to capture a single ray of sunlight once a year. This is the world of ancient architects, masters of a forgotten science, who designed with an astronomical precision that defies belief. By the end of this journey, you will understand the true purpose behind these celestial monuments and how they were built. We will uncover how cultures across the globe independently aligned their greatest structures with the stars, and why a stone circle in the desert predates Stonehenge by 1,000 years. These mysteries force us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about our ancestors' capabilities. What does our modern world overlook about the sky above us? Astronomical precision is not a matter of chance. It represents a deliberate and breathtakingly accurate fusion of architecture with the cosmos. Think of it as a language written not in words, but in stone and sunlight, where a building's very orientation speaks of a deep, generational understanding of the heavens. This precision involves aligning massive, permanent structures with specific celestial events. These events could be the solstices, the longest and shortest days of the year, or the equinoxes, when day and night are of equal length. They could also track the complex 18.6-year cycle of the moon, or the rising of a single, significant star. This goes far beyond merely watching the sky. It demands complex mathematical calculations, a masterful application of geometry, and the patient, long-term recording of celestial cycles that unfold over decades, even centuries. All of this was accomplished without telescopes, without computers, without any of the tools we consider essential for such a task. To position a doorway so that a single beam of sunlight pierces its dark interior only once a year, on the morning of the summer solstice, requires knowing the sun's shifting path with incredible exactness. This was not a casual hobby. It points to a sophisticated and sustained scientific tradition, a body of knowledge so vital it was literally set in stone, becoming the foundation of their culture, their religion, and their very identity. So how did they do it? What drove them to such extraordinary lengths? The clues are not in dusty manuscripts, but etched into the weathered faces of the monuments they left behind. The true depth of their achievement becomes staggering when you realize they had no telescopes. This is the enigma of pre-telescopic knowledge. How could cultures from thousands of years ago track a cycle as vast and slow as the precession of the equinoxes? This is a wobble in Earth's axis that takes 26,000 years to complete a single rotation. To even notice such a subtle shift in the stars over a human lifetime requires patient, meticulous observation, recorded and passed down across countless generations. They were not just watching the sky for a season, they were watching it for centuries, building a celestial database in their minds and their myths. Their tools were astonishingly simple. A vertical stick in the ground, called a gnomon, could cast a shadow whose length and direction told the time of day and the season of the year. In ancient Egypt, a device known as a merkit, a slit in a palm rib used with a plumb line, could track the alignment of stars with remarkable accuracy. With these basic instruments, they identified complex planetary motions and synchronized the solar and lunar cycles into intricate calendars. These calendars were not mere abstractions. They were the beating heart of their societies, dictating when to plant and when to harvest, and when to hold the most sacred religious ceremonies. The alignments they achieved are often accurate to a fraction of a single degree, a level of precision that seems to whisper of other, now lost, technologies or methodologies. Perhaps they used reflective pools of water as stable observational surfaces, or developed advanced forms of string geometry that have since decayed into dust. This undeniable mastery forces a profound shift in perspective. It asks us to reconsider the intellectual capacity and sheer scientific dedication of our ancestors. Their legacy was not written on fragile parchment, but carved into the very landscape, a permanent testament to a forgotten age of celestial science. So where do we find the most compelling evidence of this lost science? The answers are etched into the world's oldest and most mysterious structures. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as a silent, monumental declaration of this celestial ambition. Its four sides align with the four cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, with an accuracy of within 1/15 of a single degree. To achieve such a perfect orientation on such a colossal scale without any modern technology is a feat that still baffles engineers today. But the pyramid's conversation with the cosmos was far more complex than just its square base. Deep within its stone heart, narrow passageways were bored at precise angles, functioning as long-range telescopes without lenses. One shaft from the king's chamber pointed directly south, targeting the star Al-Nitak, the central star in Orion's belt. Another, aimed north, was locked onto Thuban, which served as the pole star in that ancient epoch. These were not simply decorative features. They were fundamental to the pyramid's purpose as a resurrection machine, a colossal device designed to launch the pharaoh's soul on a direct trajectory to the imperishable stars. The entire structure was a cosmic anchor, a physical representation of a belief system where earthly power and celestial destiny were inseparably linked. This coordination of architecture and astronomy on such a staggering scale reveals a civilization that did not just observe the night sky, but saw their own reflection in its eternal patterns. And this profound connection was not unique to the sands of Egypt. Yet this celestial ambition was not confined to the sun-baked deserts of Egypt. Far to the north, on a windswept plain in England, another ancient computer was silently calculating the heavens. The monolithic rings of Stonehenge are far more than a simple circle of stones. This is a sophisticated astronomical observatory and a complex calendar carved from sarsen and bluestone. At its heart lies a profound alignment. The massive heel stone stands sentinel, positioned to perfectly frame the rising sun on the summer solstice when viewed from the circle's center. This single, powerful event still draws thousands of visitors every year, a testament to the enduring power of this ancient design. But the true genius of Stonehenge runs much deeper. The specific arrangement of its smaller bluestones and the towering sarsen trilithons appears to map the moon's complex dance. They mark the lunar standstills, the extreme points in the moon's 18.6-year cycle, where it rises and sets at its farthest north and south. This is an observation that requires not just years, but generations of patient, precise record-keeping. Some researchers go further, proposing that the entire configuration could have served as an early warning system for predicting eclipses, those terrifying moments when the sun or moon vanishes from the sky. To build this required a monumental effort, transporting massive stones over hundreds of miles without the wheel or draft animals. This feat implies a communal understanding of celestial mechanics so vital that it unified people across the landscape and across time. Stonehenge was not just a temple to the sky, it was a stone computer, its pillars and apertures functioning as fixed gears in a mechanism that calculated time itself by the eternal movements of the sun and moon. It represents a deep communal connection to the cosmos, a bond so strong they were willing to move mountains, or at least massive stones, to cement it into the earth. And while Stonehenge is the most famous, it is not the oldest. An even more ancient mystery lies waiting in the deserts of the Middle East. High in the arid desert of New Mexico, a different kind of celestial clock was engineered with breathtaking subtlety. Upon the imposing face of Fajada Butte, the ancestral Puebloans crafted what is now known as the Sun Dagger. This was not a monument of quarried stone and towering pillars, but a masterpiece of natural architecture. They positioned 3 massive stone slabs with such care that they acted as a celestial lens. Behind these stones, they carved 2 elegant spiral petroglyphs into the rock face. The entire site became a complex solar instrument. On the morning of the summer solstice, a single, sharp dagger of sunlight would pierce through the slabs and perfectly bisect the center of the larger spiral. Months later, on the winter solstice, 2 distinct daggers of light would appear, framing the same spiral on either side. And during the equinoxes, when day and night stand in perfect balance, a single beam would strike directly through the heart of a smaller, neighboring spiral. This was a calendar of light and shadow, a precise mechanism that required no moving parts, only an intimate, generations-deep understanding of the sun's changing path and the unique local geology. For an agricultural society living in a challenging environment, this was more than art or ritual. It was essential, practical knowledge. The Sun Dagger told them exactly when to plant their crops and when to prepare for harvest, tying their survival directly to the cosmic cycle. It proves that cosmic wisdom did not always require moving mountains. Sometimes it was about listening to the landscape and inscribing your knowledge upon it with a delicate, unerring touch. Far to the west, in the Green Boyne Valley of Ireland, a different kind of celestial machine has been waiting for over 5,000 years. The massive, circular mound of Newgrange is a passage tomb older than the Great Pyramid and Stonehenge. Its white quartz facade and great curbstone, intricately carved with spirals, hint at the wonder hidden within. The true genius of this structure lies not in its grand exterior, but in a small, precise opening above its main entrance known as the roof box. This was not a doorway for people, but a portal for sunlight, engineered with astonishing foresight. For a few precious days around the winter solstice, when the sun is at its lowest and weakest point in the sky, something magical happens. At sunrise, a single, narrow beam of light begins to creep through this roof box. It travels down the long, 19-meter passageway, a journey into the heart of the mound that lasts for approximately 17 minutes. At the end of its path, it floods the central burial chamber in a sudden, brilliant explosion of golden light. In the depths of the darkest winter, this was a powerful, symbolic act. It represented the ultimate victory of light over darkness, the promise that the sun would be reborn and the cycle of the seasons would continue. But this was more than just a beautiful metaphor. It was a feat of engineering that required an intimate understanding of the sun's precise path along the horizon. The architects had to calculate the exact height and angle of the roof box to capture the sun's low, shallow arc, ensuring the beam would travel the entire length of the passage and hit its target for only a brief, specific window of time each year. The entire structure is a masterclass in aligning architecture with the solar cycle, blending profound spiritual symbolism with cold, hard astronomical precision. This was a monument built to house the dead, yet its primary function was to celebrate the enduring power of light and life itself. Across the ocean, another civilization was building a city as a mirror to the heavens. The vast metropolis of Teotihuacan in Mexico presents a puzzle in its very foundations. Its entire grid, a masterpiece of urban planning, is not aligned to the cardinal directions as you might expect. Instead, the whole city is deliberately rotated, offset from true north by exactly 15.5 degrees. This was not an error in construction. It was a deliberate, city-wide alignment with the cosmos. The reason for this specific orientation becomes clear when you look to the sky. archaeoastronomers have found that this angle corresponds precisely to the setting point of the Pleiades star cluster on the local horizon. This cluster, known as the Seven Sisters, held profound significance in Mesoamerican cosmology, often associated with creation, the calendar, and the agricultural cycle. But the celestial connections do not end there. The monumental pyramid of the Sun, the city's centerpiece, is aligned so that its western face points directly toward the setting sun on the 2 days of the year when the sun passes directly overhead at noon. This solar event, which divides the year perfectly, would have bathed the pyramid's facade in a dramatic perpendicular light. Even the city's main thoroughfare, the Street of the Dead, is now understood to have its own significant astronomical alignments, perhaps tracking other important stars or planets. The entire urban plan, from its grandest pyramid to the orientation of its streets, was conceived as a single, unified instrument. Teotihuacan was not merely a city with astronomical features. It was a living, breathing model of the universe, a terrestrial reflection of a cosmic order that governed every aspect of life. This theme of building a world in the image of the heavens connects these ancient sites across continents and cultures, revealing a shared, fundamental human impulse to find our place in the grand celestial scheme. What other profound connections might we uncover when we look at the world through their eyes? High in the Andean cloud forest, a granite pillar stands as the silent, beating heart of Machu Picchu. This is the Intihuatana, the hitching post of the sun, a stone so sacred it was believed to tether the sun itself to the earth. More than just a ritual object, it is a masterpiece of engineering, a solar clock of breathtaking accuracy. Its angles were carved with such precision that on the 2 equinoxes, when day and night hang in perfect equilibrium, the sun would position itself directly overhead. In that singular moment, the pillar cast no shadow at all. This was not just a beautiful optical effect. It was the ultimate symbol of cosmic balance, a critical zero-point marker in the Inca calendar that dictated the timing for planting, harvest, and the most important religious ceremonies. They believed this stone performed a vital, literal function. It stopped the sun in its apparent journey southward, preventing the world from descending into an eternal, frozen darkness. Every facet of the Intihuatana, from its precise cardinal alignments to its strategic placement within the city's sacred geography, reveals a culture that saw no separation between the spiritual and the scientific. The stone was the central cog in a vast mechanism that synchronized every human activity, from the emperor's decrees to the farmer's plow, with the unerring rhythm of the cosmos. It was the point where heaven and earth met, a fixed anchor in a celestial sea. Deep beneath the island of Malta lies a sanctuary where stone itself seems to sing. The Hal Saflieni Hypogeum is a labyrinthine temple carved entirely underground, a world of shadows and whispers. Within its depths, one chamber stands apart, the so-called oracle room. This is not merely a quiet, enclosed space. It possesses an acoustic phenomenon so powerful it defies simple explanation. When a voice is intoned at a specific, low pitch, the entire chamber resonates. The sound does not just travel through the air, it vibrates through the stone floor and into the very bones of anyone standing within it, creating a profound, full-body sensation. This resonance occurs at a frequency of 110 Hz, a tone that some studies suggest can directly influence human brain activity, potentially shifting states of consciousness. But the architect's genius did not stop with sound. Intricate shafts carved upward through the solid limestone pierce the ceiling of this oracle chamber. While their exact purpose remains debated, it is compelling to consider they were not merely for ventilation. These narrow tunnels could have functioned as precise celestial conduits. On specific days of the year, perhaps aligned with solstices or significant star risings, these shafts may have channeled a single, focused beam of sunlight down into the resonant darkness. Imagine the immersive power of that moment. A deep, pervasive hum fills your body just as a dagger of celestial light cuts through the gloom, illuminating a carved red ochre spiral on the chamber wall. This was a multi-sensory engine, a perfect synthesis of architecture, astronomy, and acoustic science. The goal was not merely to observe the heavens, but to become one with its rhythms. The chamber was designed to harmonize the human spirit with the perceived vibrations of the cosmos, using controlled sound and light to trigger altered states for ritual or divination. This reveals a sophistication that moves far beyond simple alignment. For these builders, true astronomical precision was a holistic experience, meant to be felt in the chest and seen with the soul as much as with the eyes. It suggests an understanding that to connect with the universe, one must engage every sense, creating a sacred technology where the body itself becomes the final, essential instrument. Yet this celestial conversation was not confined to isolated stones or hidden chambers. In the jungles of Cambodia, an entire empire carved its vision of the cosmos into a landscape of staggering scale. Angkor Wat is the world's largest religious monument, a sprawling stone representation of the Hindu universe. Its very orientation is a clue. Unlike most temples that face the rising sun in the east, Angkor Wat opens to the west, a deliberate choice that sets it apart. But its most breathtaking astronomical feat is revealed on the morning of the spring equinox. As dawn breaks, the sun rises in perfect alignment directly over the temple's central lotus tower. From the main entrance, viewers witness this precise celestial event, a moment where the sun appears to crown the sacred pinnacle, uniting heaven and earth in a single, brilliant spectacle. This was no happy accident. It required an advanced understanding of solar geometry to position the entire, massive complex so this alignment would occur with such flawless symmetry. The cosmic mirroring extends far beyond the temple walls. Some researchers propose that the vast layout of the Angkor complex, including its enormous surrounding reservoirs known as barrays, was designed to mirror the stars of the constellation Draco coiling across the night sky. This suggests a vision of astronomical precision so immense it encompassed not just a single building, but an entire engineered landscape of temples, canals, and reservoirs. The city itself was a map of the heavens, a conscious effort to build a terrestrial realm that was an inseparable reflection of the celestial order. In this worldview, the gods did not simply live in the sky. They were the sky, and the earth was their mirror. Angkor Wat stands as the ultimate expression of this belief, a universe in stone where every sunrise, every equinox, reaffirmed a sacred, cosmic connection. Long before the pyramids pierced the Egyptian skyline, a different kind of calendar was being laid out on the desert floor. The stone circle of Nabta Playa rests in the heart of the Sahara, a stark and simple arrangement of megaliths that is one of the oldest known astronomical observatories on Earth. This unassuming site predates its famous cousin, Stonehenge, by a full 1,000 years. It was built by a nomadic, cattle-worshipping society, a people who followed the rains and lived in harmony with a climate that was far wetter than the barren desert we see today. Their survival depended on predicting the arrival of the seasonal monsoon rains, and they used the stars as their guide. Key stones within the circle were precisely positioned to align with the rising points of specific, crucial stars, including the familiar trio of Orion's belt, that same celestial marker we saw targeted by the shafts within the Great Pyramid. This was not a monument of empire, but a practical tool for a pastoral people. The entire structure functioned as a vast calendar, marking the summer solstice and signaling the imminent approach of the life-giving downpours. The existence of Nabta Playa is a profound piece of evidence. It demonstrates that the human drive for celestial precision is ancient, emerging independently among nomadic cultures long before the rise of great cities and powerful pharaohs. This simple stone circle in Africa challenges the traditional narrative that places the birth of complex astronomy solely in the river valleys of Mesopotamia or the palaces of the Mediterranean. It reveals a deep, indigenous wellspring of scientific curiosity, proving that the desire to read the sky and understand our place within it is a fundamental part of the human story, one that began not in palaces, but under the open, star-filled sky of the nomadic herdsmen. The spiral staircase within El Caracol was far more than a passage to the top. It was the central artery of a living observatory, a functional tool designed for the priest astronomers who charted the heavens. From its elevated platform, they peered through those narrow, slit-like windows, each one a precision sightline carved in stone. The most critical of these alignments targeted the planet Venus. For the Maya, Venus was not a distant point of light. It was a divine entity, a god of war whose cyclical appearances and disappearances dictated the timing of conflict and ceremony. Their Venusian calendar was a marvel of long-term observation, accurate to just one day in 584 years. The windows of El Caracol were engineered to frame the planet's extreme rising and setting points on the horizon, tracking its complex 8-year cycle with unerring accuracy. But this celestial watchtower was not dedicated to a single god. Other apertures were perfectly aligned with the setting sun on the equinoxes and with the moon at its most northerly point in the sky. This was a multi-purpose astronomical machine. The very form of the building, a circular tower on a rectangular platform, breaks dramatically from the rigid, stepped pyramids that surround it. Its unique shape was not an aesthetic whim. It was the direct result of its function, a purpose-built scientific instrument where every architectural choice served the goal of celestial measurement. El Caracol stands as undeniable proof that for the Maya, the pursuit of astronomical knowledge was a science as vital as theology, a discipline where precise calculation and profound belief were one and the same. But sometimes the celestial connection was not about light and shadow, but about preserving the entire sky itself. Within the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt, the ceiling transforms into a breathtaking, permanent planetarium. Here, the famous Dendera zodiac is carved, a sprawling circular map of the heavens created around 50 years before the Common Era. This is not a simple pattern of stars. It is a sophisticated bas-relief, a detailed snapshot of the cosmos as the Egyptians understood it, blending their own ancient traditions with the newer Greco-Roman knowledge of the zodiac. The entire ecliptic, the sun's apparent path through the sky, is clearly marked along with recognizable constellations and the 5 visible planets. Even the circumpolar stars, those that never dip below the horizon, are meticulously included. This was far more than a decorative masterpiece. It was a functional, architectural record of celestial knowledge, a sky map set in stone for priestly instruction and ritual use. Imagine a scholar 2,000 years ago gazing upward in the lamplight, using this carved ceiling to track planetary movements or to teach the next generation the intricate dance of the heavens. The Dendera zodiac demonstrates that architectural astronomy was not solely about alignments and solstices. It was also about data preservation, about encoding a complete cosmological system into the very fabric of a sacred building to ensure its survival across countless generations. This desire to create a permanent, physical record of the cosmos reveals a profound shift from simply observing the sky to systematically cataloging it, a crucial step in the long journey of human discovery. On the eastern coast of India, a chariot of stone waits for a dawn that will never arrive. The Sun Temple of Konark is a monument frozen in a moment of cosmic motion, designed as the colossal vehicle of the sun god Surya, pulled by 7 mighty stone horses. Its most defining feature is the set of 12 immense, intricately carved wheels that flank its sides. These are not mere decoration. Each of the 12 pairs of wheels represents one of the 12 months in the annual solar cycle, turning the entire temple base into a massive stone embodiment of the year itself. But the architects took this celestial symbolism a step further into the realm of practical science. Each wheel is a fully functioning sundial of breathtaking complexity. The detailed spokes are not just artistic carvings, they are precisely angled gauges. As the sun arcs across the sky, these spokes cast shadows upon the wheel's rim, which is marked with smaller, intricate carvings. By reading the position of these shadows against the markings, a person could determine the exact time of day with remarkable accuracy. The entire temple was a public timepiece on a monumental scale. Furthermore, the structure was precisely oriented so that the first golden rays of the rising sun would strike the main entrance and flood the inner sanctum, harnessing the dawn itself as part of its sacred ritual. This is architectural poetry in its highest form. The Sun Temple of Konark is not simply a building about the sun. It is a building that functions with the sun, a machine that tracks the passage of hours, days, and months. It represents a philosophy where art, religion, and the science of timekeeping were inseparable strands of the same cosmic truth. Here, the divine was not a distant force to be worshipped, but an active, measurable presence that governed the rhythm of all life, and the temple was the instrument through which that rhythm was made visible to all. On a remote Scottish isle, the Callanish stones whisper of a different celestial obsession. Arranged in a unique cruciform pattern, this stone circle does mark the midsummer sunrise, but its true conversation was with a more enigmatic partner, the moon. Primary solar alignment feels almost like a prelude to a far more complex performance. The true genius of Callanish is etched into its avenues of standing stones, which stretch out from the central circle like arms reaching for the horizon. These stone rows do not frame the sun. Instead, they act as precise sightlines, capturing the moon during the most dramatic points of its long and intricate dance. Every 18.6 years, the moon reaches its southern major lunar standstill, a point where it appears to skim agonizingly low along the horizon, almost refusing to rise. At this pivotal moment from within the circle, an observer would see the moon dramatically framed by the stones, appearing to roll along the edge of the world before beginning its slow climb back northward. This focus on the lunar cycle reveals a culture that looked beyond the dependable annual rhythm of the sun. They were charting a more subtle, more mysterious clock, one that required generations of patient observation to fully comprehend. Tracking the moon's 18-year cycle demands a continuity of knowledge that far outlasts a single human life, a sacred science passed down through countless storytellers and star watchers. While the sun governed the day and the seasons, the moon held sway over the tides, the night, and perhaps the deeper, unseen currents of their world. Callanish stands as a powerful reminder that ancient sky watchers were not monolithic in their focus. They were sophisticated enough to track multiple celestial bodies, each with its own unique rhythm and profound symbolic meaning. The stones force us to ask, what other long-term cycles did they watch, and what secrets did they believe were written in the slow, silent waltz of the moon? These breathtaking structures all point toward a single, profound question. Why would cultures separated by oceans and millennia pour such immense effort into this celestial stonework? The answer lies not in a quest for scientific data, but in a spiritual vision of the universe. These ancient architects operated on a core belief known as cosmological homology, the conviction that the earthly realm should be a perfect mirror of the heavenly one. The world of humans, the microcosm, was meant to reflect the grand design of the macrocosm, the cosmos itself. By building a temple that aligned with the rising of a specific star or the solstice sun, they were doing far more than marking a date. They were forging a sacred connection, creating a permanent bridge where heaven and earth could meet. This was the point of contact for communicating with the gods, a place where prayers could ascend and divine power could descend. This alignment was essential for maintaining cosmic order. In Egypt, this principle was called Mat, the fundamental force of truth, balance, and harmony that held chaos at bay. In Vedic India, it was known as Artya, the sacred order that governed the cosmos, society, and the individual. A king or pharaoh was not just a political leader. He was the primary intermediary, the human anchor for this cosmic order. His legitimacy depended on his ability to uphold this sacred balance, and these astronomically precise monuments were the ultimate proof of his divine mandate. They demonstrated his unique role as the linchpin between the human and the divine. The architecture itself was a physical prayer, a permanent act of worship etched into the landscape. Every aligned passageway, every precisely positioned stone, was a deliberate act of joining the human world to the unerring rhythm of the universe. It was a way of saying, we are part of this grand design, and we have built our home in its image. This celestial precision was at its heart a matter of survival. Beyond the profound spiritual connections, these stone calendars served a brutally practical purpose in agrarian societies. Knowing the exact moment of the solstice or the equinox was not an abstract intellectual exercise. It was the difference between a bountiful harvest and starvation, between a thriving community and its collapse. The annual cycle dictated everything. It told farmers when the last frost had passed and the soil was warm enough to sow seeds. It signaled the approach of the monsoon rains, crucial for watering crops in arid lands. It warned of the coming winter, the time to gather the herds and secure stored grain. A mistake of even a few days could be catastrophic, leading to crop failure and famine. This is why the alignments were made so public and so permanent. A priest could keep a secret, but a beam of sunlight striking a spiral petroglyph on a specific morning could not. The Sun Dagger at Fajada Butte was a communal alarm clock, its light dagger a clear, unambiguous signal to an entire community that the time for planting had arrived. The Intihuatana at Machu Picchu, casting no shadow on the equinox, was a zero-point reset for the Inca agricultural year, synchronizing the work of millions across a vast empire. These structures democratized essential knowledge. They took the complex, long-term observations of master sky watchers and encoded them into the landscape, creating a foolproof system that everyone could understand and trust. This practical need for flawless timekeeping was the engine that drove the development of observational astronomy. It demanded ever greater accuracy and led to the creation of these durable architectural calendars. By building their knowledge into stone, these ancient cultures ensured that the vital rhythm of the seasons would never be forgotten, that the calendar would endure long after the individual astronomers who designed it were gone. This was a science born from necessity, a technology of survival written in sunlight and shadow. Their methods were as ingenious as their designs. To master the heavens, they first had to conquer the earth, moving mountains of stone with a toolkit that seems impossibly simple to our modern eyes. The foundational tool for solar alignment was the gnomon, a humble vertical pole planted firmly in the ground. By meticulously tracking the arc of its shadow throughout the day and across the seasons, they could map the sun's entire journey. They would mark the tip of the shadow at noon every day. Over a year, these marks would form a curving line, with the longest shadow marking the winter solstice and the shortest shadow pinpointing the summer solstice. This simple, repetitive act, performed over generations, provided the raw data needed to align a temple's doorway or a stone corridor with unerring accuracy. For stellar alignments, the technique shifted from the ground to the horizon. They used permanent sighting lines, often between two fixed stone pillars or from a specific point within a circle to a distant notch between two hills. A priest astronomer would watch night after night, year after year, waiting for the moment a specific star like Sirius or the Pleiades would rise or set precisely within that stone frame. Once that celestial event was captured in their memory and their myths, they could translate it into a permanent architectural feature, locking the star's position into the very bones of their structure. But knowing where to place the stones was only half the battle. The other half was moving them. The transportation of multi-ton megaliths remains one of history's great logistical puzzles. For the blue stones of Stonehenge, hauled over 200 miles, the solution likely involved a combination of wooden rollers, sledges greased with animal fat, and a massive, coordinated labor force. They understood the principles of leverage and could have used ropes and frames to pivot these giants into precisely dug holes. At sites like Baalbek in Lebanon, where foundation stones weigh over 1,000 tons, the scale of communal organization becomes almost unimaginable, requiring the synchronized effort of hundreds, if not thousands, of people pulling in unison. Before a single stone could be raised, the ground itself had to be made perfect. The squaring and leveling of massive foundations were achieved with breathtaking simplicity. They dug trenches around the construction site and filled them with water, creating a perfectly level plane to measure against. A simple plumb bob, a weighted string, gave them a true vertical line. With these two rudimentary tools, they could ensure that the first course of stones was perfectly horizontal and that the walls rose perfectly straight, a necessity for the long, narrow solstice-aligned passageways found in tombs like Newgrange. Their genius was not in the complexity of their tools, but in the profound depth of their understanding. They took basic principles of geometry and physics and applied them on a colossal scale, turning simple observations into a sacred science that has endured for millennia. This transmission of celestial knowledge was a monumental undertaking in its own right. How could such precise, complex information survive for centuries without the safety net of written manuals or public records? The solution was not found in libraries, but in the human voice and a rigorous system of initiation. This was not public knowledge. It was the exclusive, fiercely guarded domain of a priestly or shamanic class, a sacred trust passed from master to apprentice. Imagine a young initiate spending decades in training. He would not be reading from a book. Instead, he would memorize the precise rising points of stars through epic poems and songs. He would learn the geometric formulas for aligning a passageway through chanted rhymes and repetitive stories, embedding the data in a form that was both unforgettable and inaccessible to the uninitiated. This was knowledge encoded in living memory. The very structure of sacred sites reinforced this secrecy. Think of Newgrange with its hidden roof box, an aperture invisible from the outside. This was not just an architectural feature, it was a physical manifestation of hidden knowledge. The true wonder of the winter solstice sunrise was an experience reserved for the few who were led into the darkness, who knew where to stand and what to watch for. That single golden beam piercing the inner chamber was a revelation granted only to those who had been prepared. This system of oral transmission and restricted access served a crucial purpose. It protected the knowledge from corruption, ensuring that the alignment formulas remained accurate across hundreds of years. A single misremembered number or a poorly taught technique could throw off an entire solar alignment, breaking the sacred connection to the cosmos and undermining the authority of the ruling elite. By keeping the science secret, they preserved its power, making the celestial events they orchestrated seem even more miraculous to the general population. This was not merely about preserving data. It was about maintaining a cosmic order where only a chosen few could act as the essential bridge between heaven and earth. The sheer number of these celestial monuments presents a riddle that has captivated researchers for generations. How is it possible that cultures separated by impassable oceans and thousands of years all arrived at the same breathtaking conclusion: to build in stone the movements of the heavens? Two competing theories attempt to solve this global puzzle. One school of thought champions the idea of diffusion, a slow spread of knowledge from a single, perhaps now lost, source civilization. Proponents of this view point to the undeniable similarities in celestial targets. Why would the builders of the Great Pyramid and the nomadic herders of Nabta both focus on the stars of Orion's belt? Why is the solstice sun a universal focal point from Ireland to Cambodia? Could a forgotten seafaring culture have carried the seeds of this knowledge across the globe, planting them in disparate soils where they grew into the unique structures we see today? The alternative theory, that of independent invention, argues that no such contact was necessary. It posits that the human mind, when confronted with the same sky, will inevitably follow the same path of discovery. Any society with the intelligence to farm and build communities would, over generations, notice the sun's predictable path, the moon's rhythmic cycle, and the stately procession of the stars. The drive to mark these cycles, to build a permanent, predictable order into a seemingly chaotic world, is a fundamental human impulse. The evidence on the ground leans heavily toward this second view. Look at the architectural expressions themselves. The corbelled vaults of Newgrange share no engineering principles with the stepped pyramids of Mesoamerica. The intricate spiral petroglyphs of the American Southwest bear no stylistic resemblance to the zodiac carvings of Egypt. The cultural contexts are equally distinct. The Intihuatana of Machu Picchu served an imperial sun cult, while the Kalanish stones tracked a lunar cycle for a decentralized island society. This suggests that the underlying desire to connect with the cosmos is a universal human constant, a shared piece of our psychological and spiritual firmware. But the methods, the materials, and the meanings they ascribed to these alignments were profoundly local, filtered through unique languages, environments, and belief systems. They were all asking the same fundamental question of the sky, but they each received and built a different answer. This global phenomenon reveals less about a lost super-civilization and more about the innate human drive to find meaning in the stars, a drive so powerful it moved mountains on every continent. This question of intentionality is precisely what the modern science of archaeoastronomy was born to answer. It is the field that bridges the gap between ancient stones and the stars, using hard data to separate celestial design from mere coincidence. The process begins with painstaking measurement. Researchers employ sophisticated tools like theodolites and high-precision GPS to map the exact positions and orientations of monuments, capturing alignments to a fraction of a single degree. But the true magic happens when this terrestrial data meets the virtual cosmos. Using advanced software, astronomers can rewind the sky. They digitally recreate the precise celestial panorama as it would have appeared thousands of years ago from that exact location, accounting for a critical factor known as the precession of the equinoxes. This is the slow 26,000-year wobble in Earth's axis that gradually shifts the position of the stars and the Sun's path over centuries. A star that is just below the horizon today might have been a brilliant beacon directly over a stone pillar when the site was constructed. By digitally removing this precessional drift, researchers can see the sky through the eyes of the original builders. The next step is statistical analysis. If a site has one alignment with the summer solstice sunrise, it could be a lucky accident. But when multiple independent features within the same structure all point to significant celestial events, the probability of chance diminishes to virtually zero. This convergence of evidence, where the archaeological record of a site's ritual use aligns perfectly with the hard astronomical data, builds an undeniable case for deliberate intent. This scientific rigor transforms our understanding from romantic speculation into documented fact, confirming that the breathtaking precision we observe was the product of a conscious, masterful design. Such grand achievements inevitably attract grand explanations. The sheer scale and precision of these ancient sites have, for decades, fueled compelling but unsubstantiated stories of alien architects and sunken continents like Atlantis. It is a seductive idea that our ancestors required the help of extraterrestrial visitors or a forgotten super-civilization wielding technologies we can scarcely comprehend. Yet the reality, pieced together by decades of careful archaeology, is both more ordinary and infinitely more remarkable. We have found the very quarries where these stones were cut, with tool marks matching the bronze and stone chisels discovered nearby. We have uncovered the sprawling worker villages, complete with bakeries and infirmaries, that house the thousands of skilled laborers who dedicated their lives to these projects. The techniques they used, from the lever and the roller to the water-filled trench for leveling, are all demonstrably within the realm of human ingenuity. They did not need anti-gravity machines or laser tools. They had something far more powerful, a generational resolve and a profound, shared purpose that enabled them to move mountains, one stone at a time, over the course of centuries. To credit these wonders to outsiders is to do a great disservice to the anonymous engineers and laborers whose legacy we are only now beginning to fully appreciate. It robs them of their rightful place as the true geniuses of their age. The authentic narrative is not one of mysterious intervention, but of human potential pushed to its absolute limit. It is a story of unwavering perseverance, of brilliant minds solving complex problems with simple tools, and of a collective yearning to reach for the stars and touch the divine. That story, grounded in evidence and celebrating human achievement, is ultimately more inspiring than any fiction. This ancient conversation between architecture and the cosmos never truly ended. The principles that guided those master builders thousands of years ago continue to resonate in the steel and glass of our modern world, evolving from spiritual ritual into a new form of sustainable science. Consider the United Nations headquarters in New York City. This global symbol of diplomacy is deliberately oriented so that twice a year, on the vernal and autumnal equinoxes, the rising sun aligns perfectly with its main thoroughfare, flooding the avenue with light. It is a powerful, modern echo of that ancient desire to mark celestial balance on a monumental scale. Across the Atlantic, the Greenwich Royal Observatory serves a different, yet equally profound, alignment purpose. It is the home of the prime meridian, the line of 0 degrees longitude. This invisible line is a human-made celestial anchor, a global agreement on how to divide the world, creating a modern alignment system that synchronizes time and navigation for the entire planet. This is our contemporary version of a cardinal direction, a shared reference point for all of humanity. The most practical evolution of this ancient wisdom is found in the growing movement of passive solar design. Contemporary green buildings are meticulously engineered to follow the sun's path, just as their stone ancestors did. Large, south-facing windows capture the low winter sun for natural heating, while strategic overhangs block the high, intense summer sun, reducing the need for artificial cooling. This is not merely about saving on energy bills. It is a conscious effort to reintegrate our structures into the natural rhythm of the solar cycle, creating buildings that work with the planet rather than against it. This enduring legacy reveals a fundamental truth. The human drive to harmonize our built environment with the heavens is a timeless pursuit. It has transformed from a sacred act of cosmic connection into a logical, sustainable practice, proving that the most forward-thinking architecture often looks back to the oldest wisdom. That profound sense of awe you feel standing in these ancient sites is not a coincidence. It is the echo of a shared human experience, a psychological bridge that spans thousands of years. Modern psychology suggests these structures tap into something fundamental within us, a deep-seated need for connection and a visceral response to vastness that puts our own lives into perspective. This feeling, often described as awe, is the same overwhelming wonder our ancestors must have felt when they first decoded the patterns of the heavens. These monuments are more than stone and shadow. They are the physical proof of an ancient quest for meaning, a desperate and beautiful attempt to impose order on a seemingly chaotic universe. When you witness a solstice sunrise at Newgrange, watching that single beam of light creep into a dark chamber built 5,000 years ago, you are not just an observer. You become a participant in a timeless ritual. In that moment, the separation between past and present collapses. You feel a direct, visceral link to the people who engineered this marvel, sharing their wonder at the cosmic cycle. This experience transcends culture, language, and belief. It reminds every person who stands there that we are all under the same sun, gazing at the same stars, united by the same fundamental questions. This powerful emotional resonance is the final, crucial layer of their design. It is why these places continue to draw millions of pilgrims and tourists long after their original priests and kings have turned to dust. Their power was not just in marking time, but in touching the human spirit, a feat of psychological engineering as brilliant as their astronomical precision. Even with all our modern tools and knowledge, profound mysteries remain etched in stone. For every celestial alignment we confidently decode, another stands silent, guarding its ancient secrets. The iconic moai of Easter Island, those brooding giants gazing inland, are a perfect enigma. We know their creators were master navigators who crossed vast oceanic distances by the stars, yet the precise astronomical purpose behind the statue's own placements is hotly debated. Some researchers propose they were aligned with the solstice sun or specific star clusters, but the full meaning of their celestial orientation, the specific stories and rituals tied to their gaze, has been lost to time. Their purpose is a haunting question mark on the landscape. An even older puzzle lies buried in the hills of Turkey. Göbekli Tepe, the world's oldest known temple complex, predates Stonehenge by a staggering 6,000 years. This site, built by hunter-gatherers, is a labyrinth of T-shaped pillars carved with intricate animal reliefs. Archaeoastronomers have found compelling evidence that these massive pillars were deliberately aligned with the rising of the star Sirius and other significant celestial bodies. But what did these alignments mean to the people who raised them? What myths were told in the shadow of these stones, and what rituals were performed under the stars they tracked? The meaning of the T-shaped pillars themselves, whether they represent ancestors, gods, or cosmic symbols, remains one of archaeology's greatest unanswered questions. We have become remarkably skilled at deciphering the how of these ancient marvels. We can calculate the angles, plot the star paths, and understand the engineering. But the full, rich depth of the why often eludes us. The specific oral traditions, the creation myths, the intimate spiritual conversations between a community and a particular star, these are the fragile human elements that have faded from memory. This is the great silence that follows the echo of their achievement. These enduring enigmas are not failures of our science, they are its very lifeblood. They ensure that the field of archaeoastronomy remains a dynamic frontier, always open to the next discovery, the next researcher who might look at an old alignment with a new perspective and hear a faint whisper of a meaning we thought was lost forever. Yet these celestial clocks are now threatened by the very passage of time they were built to measure. The same sun and wind that illuminated their purpose are now slowly erasing their precision. Natural erosion grinds away at stone surfaces, while climate change introduces more extreme weather patterns that can cause ground subsidence, subtly tilting massive stones and throwing ancient alignments off by fractions of a degree over decades. But a more immediate and accelerating danger comes from us. Mass tourism, while a testament to our enduring fascination, places an immense physical strain on these fragile sites. At Stonehenge, the constant tread of thousands of feet compacts the earth, potentially destabilizing the foundations of the monumental sarcens. At Machu Picchu, the humidity from the breath and sweat of dense crowds contributes to the erosion of the granite, slowly wearing down the intricate angles of the Intihuatana. This human presence does more than just physical damage. It alters the delicate micro-environment around the monuments, changing temperature and humidity levels in ways that can accelerate decay. The great challenge for modern conservators is balancing public access with preservation. How do we allow people to experience these wonders without loving them to death? Organizations like UNESCO work tirelessly to protect these designated World Heritage Sites, implementing visitor caps, constructing protective walkways, and funding delicate restoration projects. Yet the ultimate responsibility does not rest with them alone. It falls to every one of us who walks these sacred grounds. Our role as visitors must shift from passive tourists to active stewards. This means staying on marked paths, not touching the ancient stones, and understanding that our presence has a tangible impact. The survival of these astronomical marvels for future generations hinges on the choices we make today. We must ensure that 5,000 years from now, the winter solstice sun still finds its way down the passage of Newgrange, and the equinox dawn continues to crown the central tower of Angkor. Their silent conversation with the cosmos must not be allowed to fall silent. Their stone calendars and celestial cities whisper a quiet antidote to our frantic modern lives. In a world saturated with digital screens and endless notifications, the ancient architects offer a timeless lesson in perspective. Their entire existence was oriented around cycles that unfold over years, decades, and even centuries, a stark contrast to our focus on the immediate and the ephemeral. They built with a patience we have almost forgotten, understanding that the most meaningful projects span generations. This was not the work of a single lifetime, but a sacred trust passed from parent to child, a long-term vision that connected a community to its past and its future. Their genius lay in a holistic world, where science, spirituality, art, and the needs of the community were not separate pursuits, but inseparable threads of the same cosmic fabric. The engineer who calculated the angle of a solstice beam was the same priest who performed the ritual, and the same artist who carved the symbols. There was no division between the sacred and the scientific. This integrated way of seeing the world stands as a powerful critique of our own fragmented and specialized age. So how do we, with our busy lives, begin to incorporate even a fraction of this ancient wisdom? The answer is beautifully simple. We start by looking up. Make a habit of noticing where the sun rises and sets from your window over the course of a month. Watch for the moon's changing phases, from a thin silver crescent to a brilliant full disk. Learn to identify one or two bright planets or a single, familiar constellation like Orion. This is not about becoming an expert astronomer. It is about re-establishing a personal, direct connection with the cosmic rhythms that have always governed life on this planet. This simple act of observation can be a profound form of mindfulness, pulling us out of our internal anxieties and anchoring us in the present moment. It fosters a deep, humbling awareness that we are part of a vast, beautiful, and orderly system, one that operates on a timescale far grander than our daily concerns. In reconnecting with the sky, we reclaim a piece of that ancient harmony, finding a sense of calm and purpose in the eternal dance of the heavens. The story of these celestial architects is still being written, its next chapters illuminated by a new dawn of technology. Light detection and ranging, or LiDAR, is revolutionizing our view of the past. This technology works by firing millions of laser pulses from an aircraft down through dense vegetation. By measuring the time it takes for each pulse to bounce back, it creates an incredibly detailed, three-dimensional map of the ground surface, effectively digitally stripping away the jungle canopy. In the forests of Cambodia, LiDAR has revealed that the Angkor complex was not just a collection of temples, but a vast, low-density urban sprawl far larger than anyone imagined, with entire road systems and water management networks all potentially aligned with celestial patterns. In Guatemala, it has uncovered lost Mayan cities and complex networks of raised causeways hidden for centuries, suggesting a level of centralized planning and astronomical integration we are only beginning to comprehend. Beyond the jungle, other tools are extending our vision. Satellite imagery scans vast, remote landscapes from orbit, identifying subtle discolorations in the soil or vegetation that hint at buried walls or earthworks. Ground-penetrating radar sends waves into the earth, painting a picture of what lies beneath without ever lifting a shovel. These technologies are guiding archaeologists to previously inaccessible or unknown sites, turning a slow, patient search into a targeted excavation. Each newly discovered plaza, each hidden foundation stone, adds another crucial piece to the global puzzle. They deepen our appreciation for this enduring human project, revealing it not as a series of isolated incidents, but as a fundamental, shared impulse that spanned the globe. The next great celestial marvel, a temple aligned with a forgotten star or a calendar tracking a cycle we have yet to identify, is likely waiting just beneath the surface, patiently biding its time until its moment in the sun arrives once more. From the pyramids of Egypt to the temples of Cambodia, this journey reveals a legacy written in stone and starlight. These monuments are far more than ruins. They are a permanent testament to human curiosity, intelligence, and our eternal desire to reach beyond our earthly confines. The ancient architects achieved a level of astronomical precision that still commands our deepest respect, and they did it all with nothing more than their own eyes, their brilliant minds, and an unshakable collective will. This was not magic or the work of outside forces. It was a profound and sophisticated science born from generations of patient observation and unwavering dedication. Let this exploration change your perspective. Look up at the night sky tonight and see it not as a random scattering of lights, but as a vast, ticking clock that our ancestors learned to read with breathtaking accuracy. See the ancient world not as a primitive prelude to our own, but as a period of towering intellectual achievement, a time when humanity moved mountains to join a celestial conversation. If these mysteries have sparked your curiosity, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to continue these journeys into the unknown and never, ever stop questioning the incredible world around you.